Hey guys, welcome back. This is Eric with This Isn't Benny Anymore. Few quick things I wanted to talk about today. First off, my Giants have been eliminated from the playoffs, which is a bummer, but I'm still excited for the baseball postseason. I had a few days off from work. I'm off until Wednesday actually. Today's my first day of 5 days off. And we had planned to make another boots on the ground trip to the dismay of maybe a few of my detractors, and I apologize if I come off as overly confident, like I know where it is. I obviously don't know where it is, or else I would already have it. If I knew where it was with the surety, I would just quit my job and go get it. Obviously, I don't know where it is, and maybe sometimes my air of confidence is presented to drive some feedback rather than to just get a bunch of people to tell me I'm awesome, because I really like the conversation in the Discord that we have with one another, because obviously this is just too hard for one person to figure out themselves. So a few things I want to discuss today. One being the Blaze. I want to talk a little bit about the Blaze and some of the comments that Forrest has made. People asked him, how he knew the chest was there, if he could see it from Google Earth, and he said that Google Earth does not go in far enough to see the chest. Now, this was presented back several years ago. Since then, it's now 2019. It is possible that Google Earth might be a little better, and thereby it may be able to zoom in closer depending on which version you're using. I don't know, but in that time he said that you could not see the chest with Google Earth, and people have interpreted that to mean that you cannot see the Blaze either. And that is never, I looked through several of the quotes that he made. He never said that. He never said that you could not see the Blaze from Google Earth, but he did say it was not wise to go searching for the Blaze and skipping over the other clues. And so that, that provides kind of this counterbalance of information, that he didn't say that you can't see the Blaze on Google Earth, but he did say it would be a waste of time to try and begin at the Blaze and discount the rest of the poem, looking for a prominent feature somewhere in the Rockies that might stand out. There are blazes everywhere, and there's very little information he gives as to what the Blaze could mean. That being said, I think a few things he did say in regards to taphonomy, which when he was asked about this, he said he had to look up what that word meant. I had to look it up as well. Basically, it just means a study of place names, meaning that it's unlikely, and he said that would not help you find the treasure, but a knowledge of geography could or would. Basically, what he's saying is that words in the poem do not coincide with the names of landmarks on a map, or that's what he's inferencing, is that just finding something, if there were let's give an example, a creek named Warm Waters Creek, he's basically saying that knowing the names of places probably wouldn't help you figure out the clues, but they could help you, or the knowledge of geography could help you. And it's tough to understand what that could mean. Obviously, the history of, when people talk about the Continental Divide and this, that, and the other, and, where Joe Meek was chased away by Indians in this part, that's a little more specialized knowledge and more, geological history or U.S. history that doesn't necessarily coincide with geography, or something that would be, if you just had a good map and the poem, he said those are enough to be able to solve the puzzle. And, that's another kind of counterweight of information, because, without looking up more information on a particular body of water or a river, it would be tough for me to even know if that were a warm water or a cold water, a confluence or this and that. And so is specialized knowledge required, or is it not? Because if place names won't help you, but geography would help you. Well, how do I get the information on what that geography means if I'm not correlating the names of places with the places that I see on a map? There's just, so without, it's basically saying that you can't solve it at home, which these counter arguments, you really couldn't solve it at home at all. That you'd have to basically be on the ground to be able to solve it, which isn't true. He said that you could solve it, and then you got to go out and find it. Which leads me to my next point, and this has plagued me ever since I started studying the chase, is the fact that way back when the book first came out, right? So you remember, he wasn't on the Today Show, I believe, until 2013, and before that, so between 2010 and 2012, it was speculated that the book sales of The Thrill of the Chase were the book sales of The Thrill of the Chase were about 25 copies per month. After he went on the Today Show in 2013, it went to 25 copies an hour. Here's the kicker. When there were only 25 copies per month being sold in those 2 or 3 years leading up to when he went on the Today Show and really promoted the chase, he said in 2012 there were people that had already solved the first 2 clues. Okay, and this has to throw your mind through a loop, because there weren't that many people, right? The explosion really didn't happen until 2013. And there were already people who had solved the first 2 clues. And if you figure, let's do some math. Let's say that was consistent from the time he released the book to the time he went on the Today Show. I don't remember the month. I feel like it's February of 2013. That could be wrong. So if you figure throughout mid-2010 to mid-2011 to mid-2012, that's 24 months, then maybe throw another 6 months. So in 30 months, let's say that math was consistent, and I'm probably generalizing way more than I should. If he sold 25 copies a month, around 750 copies. So the first 750 people that got their hands on the book. Now again, this is quite a generalization, but I've had my book since 2014 or 15. I have the 6th edition, or the 6th printing, or whatever. So the people that had the first printing, however many copies that was, at least a few people had already solved the first 2 clues. Which just makes you think, now that there are hundreds of thousands of people that have been looking for it, how come we can't get any closer? If within the first 1,000 people, a few people had solved it, which leads me to believe the reason why he won't give us any more hints or clues is because it's far easier than we could possibly realize, right? And he enjoys this. His close friends have even said that he enjoys the attention, and he's probably going to enjoy it up until the day that he dies. And that if he enjoys the attention, I don't know that he really wants to end just yet until he feels like maybe he's right on the verge of dying, and it doesn't seem that he's in that position right now. So if out of the first 1,000 people, a few people have solved it, how hard could the clues be? How hard could Where Warm Waters Halt? And he said that's the hardest clue. And several people within the first 1,000 solved it. And here we are, now there are countless channels and forums and chat rooms and Reddit threads and just private blogs. And here we are all discussing, trying to get to the bottom of these 2 things, and people coming up with new ideas and speculations. Obviously, it couldn't be that difficult because people have already done it. People in the first 1,000, before all these easy ideas were exhausted and people started getting into really crazy stuff, people probably were trying the easy stuff, and it was close. People got dang close within the first 2 years. Imagine what that would have meant to him. It's like, wow, people almost found this thing already. And I'm not sure how much detail and how much feedback he was giving in his emails, during those first couple years before he went on the Today Show. Then he started releasing additional clues to help narrow it down a little bit. Why was he doing that? Was he doing it for the safety of others? Was he doing it to further promote the chase, to sell more books? I don't think so. It wasn't until later that he said he kind of like really stressed, like, don't do anything dangerous. He still at no point would take fault for the fact that people killed themselves, and I wouldn't either. If people die all the time in the Rocky Mountains doing dumb stuff, people get attacked by bears all the time doing dumb stuff, there's no way you could be at fault for people choosing to put themselves in dangerous situations. Or just the fact that Mother Nature is just that. Like, you know, I could have an AK and 10 cans of bear spray, and it still might not be enough, you know? You never know. But why was he giving additional clues? I think that he wanted people to narrow in a little bit without ending the chase right away. And since that point, he really hasn't given us anything, nothing public anyways. And it's my opinion that the solution to this is far simpler than whoever does come to solve it. They will shed light on the fact that the poem was far simpler than we could ever possibly imagine. Why, you know, if there are people that solved it and they felt pretty confident about it, what were they thinking? Who are these people? If we could figure out who those searchers were that had solved the first two and others that possibly solved the first 4 clues, if we could find out who they were, wouldn't that be fantastic? We could, you know, if there was some way that we could identify which 2 or which few or which several made it within a couple hundred feet, dude, we'd all be there. We'd all pick a day and we'd all go search together and we'd find it and divvy it up. So I think that's why Forrest is not releasing any more information, because if he hit it so well that it took some crazy decoding and anagrams of the title, and you guys have seen all this stuff. You know, people putting it in an Excel graph and matching up the letters and what these things spell out. If it was that intense, he could give us clues all day long, and it still wouldn't help us. But there are a few things we know for sure, is that he has claimed that he buried it. He's retracted that statement, but there are a couple times he didn't. He kind of slipped up. He buried it in a place that he loved. And a place that I love, I don't visit just once. I visited several times. It probably would be tied to some family emotion or some family event or just something where I was probably doing it with other people, some experience I got to share with someone else, commemorating the loss of a loved one, or just a really spiritual experience. You know, I can remember those places that had really spiritual, religious experiences. He doesn't strike me as an overly religious person, but he does seem like, you know, he does have a connection with the land and with his family that he mentions so much. It stands to reason that there aren't too many places it could be. You know, one of my very first videos I circled 2 localized areas, one in New Mexico and one up North Yellowstone in the Gallatin Forest. If I were a betting man, it has to be somewhere within a day or two's horseback's journey from West Yellowstone. How far could you get on a horse? In, you know, that was his happy place, man. That was his happy place. Maybe 3 days. What's that?
Good thing you're not a betting man.
My wife says, good thing I'm not a betting man. Maybe 3 days journey on horseback from West Yellowstone, where they stayed every year. Less than 100-mile radius from West Yellowstone. I would say maybe 50 miles from West Yellowstone, a place that he could have returned to often. You know, maybe in solitude, maybe not, maybe hiking, maybe a short drive. And I would bet, if I, you know, and that eliminates Idaho. So we just got 2 states in a really small area. I'd say 50 miles north, or maybe 50 miles northeast, or 50 miles east of West Yellowstone. And I'm okay if, you know, people disagree and they present arguments for or against it. I understand that it would have been much easier, and he could have done it much more discreetly to hide it in New Mexico, north of where he lived. That wouldn't be too difficult. He could have done that in an afternoon, snuck away. His wife would have never known where he was. No one would have known, you know, wouldn't be connected or tied to any bank statements, you know, if he rented a car on this day or if he rented a plane or whatever he did, I feel like some of the best experiences I had were just family vacation stuff, doing stuff that didn't have to be thrilling or exhilarating. When we'd go up, things I look most fondly on now, when we'd go up, my grandfather's from Idaho, and we'd go up fishing up in Malad, Idaho, and just go up to a place where he was from, and I got to be with my dad and my brother and my grandfather, and just be there. I didn't appreciate it at the time when I was 9, 10, 11, 12. I didn't appreciate it, but I look so fondly back on those experiences. And I think that he did too. That he really appreciated that time he got to spend as a kid in nature and with his family. And I don't think that ever leaves the soul. I'm not saying that as he moved to Santa Fe that he didn't draw a special connection with the land in his archaeology and some of those experiences where he spread that lady's ashes on Taos Mountain. I'm not saying that there aren't some special connections with that region. I'm just saying, if I were a betting man, it'd be like saying if I were a betting man, I'd pick the Patriots to win the Super Bowl. Does that mean they're going to win? No, but it's probably a good place to put your money, right? I'm not saying it's not in New Mexico, but I'm saying if I were to put my money on something, I'm going all in on that region, just near West Yellowstone. So, anyways, those are my thoughts today. I'll conclude by saying I'm a bit concerned that the search season for this year is over. Today we wanted to go. We had plans to go. One of our solves in particular would have involved crossing through a bit of water. And we looked at the temperature up in a few places south of Bozeman, and it was going to be around 50 at, in some of these towns, meaning if you're up in the mountains, it would have probably been around 40 degrees. And once you're crossing through water, if you're several miles from a car, or even a mile from a car, hiking terrain and getting wet, I just didn't think it was going to be a great idea. In the next few days, it's going to be snowing. So it's probable, unless the weather clears up, if we're going to be entering October, and the snow's probably not going to, there's a good chance, especially up in the mountains, it's not going to leave. The search season in the Yellowstone area is probably over for the year, which makes me very sad, because now if I don't find it and no one else finds it, that means I have to harbor these thoughts for another 4 or 5 months before people can go out and look. Maybe the search season in New Mexico is a little bit longer. The elevation's not terribly different though. I'd love to hear some of your thoughts and feedbacks. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you loved it, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We're on the quest for 200 subscribers. We're getting pretty close. And as always, I don't mind criticism. I'd probably leave the name calling to a minimum. It's kind of silly, especially if you have accounts like this one that just pretend to be people that they're not. Just don't do that. But I do appreciate criticism. I think it's important for the community to look at things objectively and not, seek confirmation bias for the things that are going through our head. So, guys, I hope you have a great day. God bless you. See ya.